having conversation with my friends tonight, and then suddenly thought, oh, I thought I can make this happen. So bear with me because there's probably a lot of grammar errors because I didn't write them. So choice. Does anybody have know how to speak second language?
No.
Or you only know how to speak English, or you have different?
Don't judge me.
So I'm actually from Taiwan, and to know how to speak two languages is actually kind of our basic skill. It's not always Mandarin, English. It's actually a lot of difference. And talk about the history, because Taiwan have really crazy history happening in this 100 years. So my grandparents, they actually know how to speak Mandarin, Japanese, and Taiwanese, and they have no idea how to speak Mandarin. Even Mandarin is our government language right now. But my parents, they know how to speak Mandarin, and they speak Taiwanese with my grandparents. And now for me, I only need to speak Mandarin, and I will barely understand Taiwanese. And now I live in the States, I have to learn how to speak English. But the reason why I'm 3 generations of my grandparents and my parents and me speak totally different is because our crazy history. And we are talking about our history today. So Taiwan used to be colonized by Japan for 1895 to end of the World War II. And my grandparents kind of in that time. So they speak local language, which is Taiwanese, but my grandpa even know how to speak another local language. But they also know how to speak Japanese because it's a governor, and then you have to learn when you're in the elementary school. And then when the World War II ends, somehow we are ruined by another Chinese government. Because in China, they used to have a government, it's called Republic of China. And then the government failed, and they have civil war happening. And after the World War II, and Taiwan become the empty spot, nobody knows what's going on with Taiwan. And go back to the history, Taiwan used to be ruined by one of the China embassy. So American, English, whatever, all the leader in the war said oh, I guess Taiwan can go back to China. And during that time, it's supposed to come to Republic of China. And the government just okay, we will take Taiwan. And they have really big fight in their own country, in China, and they lose. I thought, shit, where should we go? Oh, there's a little island where nobody knows what's going on. So they flew to Taiwan. And then stuff but Taiwan people don't speak Mandarin. How can we control them? When there's a lot of people actually have higher education and living better life. So they decide to, sorry, I got nervous and my voice always comes I'm crying by now. So they decided to just make Mandarin become a local language. So they make all the high education people, they just don't know how to communicate, and they couldn't get a better position anymore. And they're actually being either killed or sent to the prison because they only know how to speak Japanese and Taiwanese, even at higher education. So my parents decided they actually banned, they couldn't speak Taiwanese in the school. If they ask them to speak their language, they will wear little sign about I'm the bad kids. I speak Taiwanese. So they speak Mandarin only. And in my generation, I actually have no idea about this history because the history book don't tell you the truth. They just only talk about all the glory things, about how great our government controlled Taiwan, how great the Chinese history. So I actually used to learn whole year about Chinese history, and Taiwan always really short, couple weeks to go talk about what's Taiwan happening. And then in my generation, I only know how to speak Mandarin. I always confused about why my grandparents don't know how to speak Mandarin. And I always feel like Mandarin is only for the people who are working as a farmer. They are lower education. I have no idea. They used to be more higher educated people. So I used to look down to Taiwanese if I understand how to how they say it, but I don't know how to speak it. Because every time I try to speak, I always like reading out fluently. Because I feel like, why I need to learn this shitty language? And then until recently, Taiwan finally not being ruled control by like governor anymore, it become democratic. And there's more history being showing on the public, and there's more movie, kind of series talk about all these things happening. And so I appreciate about, at least I still here, I still understand Taiwanese, I just can't speak freely. So actually my goal this year is I started listening to a lot of podcasts and listen to music about Taiwanese, and hopefully I can get the language back to me again. That's my story.